Welcome as you're getting on the training tonight. We'll start in just a few minutes. Welcome to everyone. As you're joining, take a look at that first screen and think of a time when you were around someone who was using marijuana or when you've used it yourself and the effects it had on you. All right, I'd like to welcome you all to this month's substance abuse prevention training. It's called Pass on Grass, the Dangers and Trends of Marijuana. My name is Meg Gellner, and I'm the Youth Mentoring Coordinator for Delaware County. I'll be your host this evening as we learn some good information about this topic. I want to thank you all for taking the time to be here tonight, and I hope you're all able to get home and get into your cozy pants and your slippers, and I hope at the end of this training you feel a little more knowledgeable about marijuana and its dangers. Okay, so before we begin tonight, we've got a little bit of housekeeping to take care of. For your information, this presentation is being recorded. So please feel free to either use your camera or leave it off, depending on your comfort level. And at this time, I ask that you please mute your microphone to eliminate any unwanted feedback during this presentation. And another thing is, if you did not pre-register for this training and I do not have your email, please put it in the chat box for me at this time. So I can be sure to include you when I send out this presentation. Also, for our grant, we need to know who you are in the community. So if you did not pre-register, please include that information in the chat box. Okay, it is through the IDPH, the Iowa Department of Public Health, that we have been funded with a grant called Improving Tomorrow, Prevention Focused Mentoring. And one of our grant requirements is that we hold 8 substance abuse prevention trainings a year, this being one of them. And our mentoring program is a program of prevention all on its own here at Helping Services. And here with me on this call to tell you a little bit more about mentoring is my colleague to the north, Kathy Schwartzoff. And Kathy has been a certified prevention specialist since 2006. She has worked in substance abuse prevention for over 25 years and has served as a mentoring coordinator for 20 years. So Kathy, thanks for being with us tonight. Can you share with us a little bit about mentoring, please?
Yes, I'd be more than happy to. Youth mentoring at Helping Services is an exciting thing to be a part of. It's extremely rewarding to the mentors. Many of our mentors say that of all the volunteer experiences that they do, this is the one that brings them the most fulfillment because it's interacting so much with a youth and you feel like you truly make a difference in their life. And that's the exciting part. So our kids age and range from 6 to 16. Mentors are screened and we make sure that they are good role models for youth. And mentors spend a minimum of 4 hours a month together doing things that they enjoy. And there's different models that are available. School-based mentoring is very active in Delaware County, where Meg's got wonderful mentors that hang out at the school with the youth and work on homework activities or doing a little bit of that, and then also some playing games, that kind of thing. And then also there's the community-based mentors who get together and do things with mentees. And in these wonderful times that we have, we also offer that mentors can get together using the telephone, video chatting, playing games online together, those kinds of things, so that they don't have to meet in person if they're not comfortable, if the family's not comfortable with that as well. And of course, in-person mentors and mentees wear their masks and social distancing and that kind of thing. But that's just a little snippet of things that we enjoy in youth mentoring. And we're really happy to have Colleen McCann, who also helps me up here in Almaquis, Howard, and Winneshiek. And we'll send it back to Delaware County and Meg Gelner.
Thank you, Kathy. Oh, it's great to have you on the call tonight. All right, we're moving right along here. Okay, so during this presentation tonight, we're going to be discussing a lot of different things about marijuana, like what is marijuana and who is using it, the dangers of marijuana use, the many forms of marijuana, because it does come in a lot of forms, how marijuana affects our youth, marijuana use here in Iowa, and also some treatment resources. And I'll have a guest on later on in this presentation to talk to you a little bit more about the treatment resources. All right, so here is our first question of the night. What is marijuana? According to the National Institute of Drug Abuse, marijuana is a greenish gray mixture of the dried flowers of cannabis sativa. Now, cannabis sativa, and if I'm pronouncing anything wrong, I have professionals on this call who I know are going to give me a ration later on, but just correct me if I'm saying something wrong, Jen. But cannabis sativa is an annual herbaceous flowering plant that's native to Eastern Asia, but now cultivation is widespread. It has been grown throughout history for many different reasons and uses. It has been used as a source of industrial fiber, seed oil, food, recreation, and religious and spiritual medicine. Okay, so for my first quiz, we're going to use the chat box, and I'm just going to read you the poll, and you tell me what the answer is. Now, the question stated, what out of the following are slang terminology for marijuana? Is it A, pot, B, weed, C, ganja, or D, all of the above? So if you could open up your chat box for me and enter either A for pot, B for weed, C, ganja, or D, all of the above.
There's a whole bunch of D's and all of the above, Meg.
Awesome. Good job. Yes, there's a lot of slang terminology for marijuana, and we're going to be talking about some of that tonight. Okay, so now we're going to talk about who's using marijuana. Now this chart gives you a good visual of just how many people are using or have used marijuana. It sounds like a pretty good statistic to say that 115 million people have never tried marijuana, but then you read on to discover that over half of the American adult population has tried marijuana at least once in their lives. Now that's a lot of people. Close to a whopping 35 million people are regular users. And being a regular user means you use marijuana at least twice a month. Now, this chart shows the United States marijuana use by age. This is kind of interesting. It's between the ages of 18 to 55, and we are fully aware that users of marijuana are also younger than 18 and older than 55, but this is just a small snapshot. The yellow line at the bottom highlights the number of folks who use marijuana daily. The gray line represents numbers for those who have used it in the last month. The orange line is for those who have used it in the past year. And the blue line represents those who are lifetime users. It was found that use in the past year, in the past month, and daily use were all the highest among those aged 21 to 22 years of age. So a little bit of consistency there.
And Meg, we can't quite see, at least I can't, the grid on the left. So where does that yellow line hit at, the percentage? We just see 0%.
Is that better? Did it reload?
Yes, wonderful.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Yeah, so that 21 to 22 years of age is kind of where that statistic peaks out on everything. So my apologies, that wasn't showing up very well. If that happens again, Kathy, please chime in and let me know. All right, moving on to the next slide. Do you guys see it okay? Okay, there's a significant gender gap in adult marijuana usage. Men age 18 to 25 are about a third more likely to use marijuana at least once a month compared to women, and men age 26 and older are twice as likely as women in that age group. And this is according to some data from the year 2016. About 17% of men and 11% of women age 18 and older said that they had used marijuana in the past year, and 54% of men and 43% of women said that they have tried marijuana at some point during their lives. Now, all this data just goes to show that men are more likely to use marijuana than women. And then this graph is about the racial gap in marijuana use. Now, the racial gap is more narrow than the gender gap was. About 17% of Blacks, 14% of whites, and 13% of Hispanics age 18 and older said that they have used marijuana in the past year. However, whites were the most likely to have ever tried marijuana. 53% of whites, 45% of Blacks, and 34% of Hispanics age 18 and older have tried marijuana. So if you're a white male, chances are you are at a higher risk for trying marijuana. Okay, marijuana will negatively affect many of the major systems in the body. The first one we're going to look at tonight is the cardiac system. Marijuana increases blood clotting. It also increases the heart rate and causes blood pressure to rise, which can increase the risk of heart attacks and arrhythmias. Kind of a disturbing fact is more than 2 million Americans that suffer from heart disease currently use or have used marijuana. So there's quite a link to it. Another system of the body that marijuana will affect is the neurological system. Marijuana overstimulates the THC receptors in the brain, and this will result in a change in sensations, like what you feel, your pain tolerance. It changes a person's perception of time. It impairs the thought process, and it impairs muscle movement. Now, it can also lead to psychiatric complications. And two of the big hitters for those problems are psychosis and delusions. Delusions are when someone has very strong but mistaken beliefs, kind of like a paranoia. Maybe someone is following you. Maybe you think you can fly, different things like that. And psychosis is when a person completely loses touch with reality. So they really have no idea what's going on. So those are some ways it can affect the neurological system. And then another system that can be affected is the respiratory system. Now, we all know smoke equals bad. That's common knowledge. Smoke in any form can harm the respiratory system, whether it's from marijuana, tobacco, even campfires. What you're burning, smoke going into your lungs is never good. Research has linked marijuana smoking to bronchitis, increased coughing and phlegm production, and also cancer. Now, marijuana smoke affects the lungs just like tobacco smoke would, but marijuana smokers have a little bit of a different technique than tobacco smokers. Most marijuana smokers tend to inhale deeper than tobacco smokers, and they hold their breath in longer. And this leads to a greater high for them, but it's much more intense and a richer exposure of their lungs to all of the tar. So that's a little bit how it's different than just plain old tobacco. All right, so this was going to be our next poll, pop quiz hotshot. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. I'll read you the question and you answer in the chat box just like you did before, and Kathy will let me know. The question is, what body systems will marijuana affect? Is it A, the cardiac system, B, the respiratory system, or C, the neurological system? Or is it D, all of the above?
Oh my goodness, the D's are digging this question. D, all of the above.
Excellent. You guys
You're
are
a smart group.
Yeah, I'm glad you're listening. That's great. Good to know you're on tonight. Okay, trucking right along. Sorry, my pot quizzes were really good. I'm sad that my polls aren't popping up for you guys. Okay, so this slide is going to talk about the different forms of marijuana. Marijuana can be used in a vast array of forms. It can be smoked or inhaled through homemade cigarettes, they call those joints. It can be smoked and inhaled through cigars. They call those buds. It can be smoked and inhaled through water pipes, which people refer to as bongs. And it can also be vaporized and inhaled as an aerosol. That's commonly referred to as vaping. Now, vaping has really become quite popular lately. And so I think this tends to be one of the methods of choice that folks use for marijuana at this time. All right, now all the pictures on the other slide, they kind of made sense, right? They looked like drugs. This does not look like drugs. This looks like the storefront of a yummy candy store or something, doesn't it? So these pictures are much more misleading. There are all kinds of edible and drinkable marijuana products. Marijuana oil can be baked into goodies like that first picture, such as cakes and brownies and other things like that. There are candies that contain marijuana oil, like chocolates or gummies. There's marijuana oils that can be added to beverages of all kinds, from soda pops to energy drinks to teas. So really it can be kind of camouflaged in all kinds of different methods. And there are also flavored marijuana sprays that can be sprayed directly under the tongue for a quick high. Now these sprays or tinctures are also sprayed on the marijuana joints and the blunts for an extra kick. So that's kind of the forms that they come in. It can be very, very misleading. So speaking of candy and sweets, this is a great segue to talk about how marijuana affects our youth. Teenage marijuana use is at its highest level in 30 years. Today's teens are actually more likely to smoke marijuana than they are tobacco. Many states allow recreational use of marijuana in adults 21 years and older, but it is illegal in all 50 states for youth to use marijuana recreationally. Today's marijuana is not the marijuana from years past. That LSD the Beatles were smoking when they created Yellow Submarine, yeah, that doesn't compare to the marijuana of today. Completely different ballgame. Currently, marijuana contains 2 to 3 times more THC than it has in past years. THC stands for, and I'm going to try to say this right the first time, tetrahydrocannabinol. Whew, I think I got it. Tetrahydrocannabinol. And that is the chemical in marijuana that makes you high. That's the bad stuff. And despite the rising THC levels in today's marijuana, the CBD level has remained the same, staying at a mere 1%. And CBD is stands for cannabidiol, yes, cannabidiol. I'll get better at these as I go, I promise. It always takes me a few times. CBD is the part of the marijuana that is being used for medicine in some places. And it's because of that its presence in the medical field that many teens believe that marijuana is natural and it's far less harmful than it really is. Now, as we talked about on previous slides, marijuana can come in a lot of different forms, and this makes it very difficult for parents to detect their children's usage and struggles with the drug. Okay, so on this slide, there's a few pictures here depicting some signs of marijuana use in youth. These pictures show how it can affect different kids in different ways. That gal on the left who looks like she's making a fish face, but acting very silly to an unusual degree could be an effect of marijuana usage. Kids seem to kind of come unglued and act very foolish. That young man in the middle who does not look like he's happy with his life right now, irritability might be another effect of the drug. Now, who hasn't ever seen an irritable teenager? I know I have. It might be a normal thing. It might be a hormonal swing, or it might be a sign of something else that's going on. Sometimes this gal on the right there, sometimes when using marijuana, teens can lose interest in things that used to captivate them. They lose their motivation to do and enjoy usual activities that they would have enjoyed before. Marijuana might even cause them to pull away from their family or their friends, and they may seem to not care about things that they would normally care about. They kind of withdraw from their lives. So those are some things to look for in youth. Now, as I said before, all of those things could just be a sullen teenager. So we have to really be watching our kids for different changes. Okay, this just demonstrates a few more things to watch for. The picture on the left, red eyes, looking washed out, looking tired, could be a sign of a late night. Then again, it could be something different. That gal in the middle, binge snacking. This picture speaks volumes. She's like hiding in the bathroom with her food, doing a lot of eating and snacking outside of usual eating times. Sometimes the youth will even hide their stash of goodies so as not to tip off their parents that maybe something's going on. This all could be a growth spurt, or it could be something more serious. And then the gal on the right there, stealing money or having money that cannot be accounted for. If your teenager has a wallet that's bulging with cash and you have absolutely no idea where it came from, or you go into your purse or your wallet and you notice that cash you had is now gone, this is all something that could be something else. Now, here is a great question. What is the best way to know if your child is struggling with marijuana addiction? And the answer is simple: talk to them. It may seem terribly scary and daunting to have these conversations with your kids, but start them while they're younger, in late elementary school, early middle school. Start the conversations, age appropriately, but start the conversations and keep the dialogue going. Kind of our job as parents to annoy them. That's all part of it. And I know that might make you uncomfortable and it might make them uncomfortable, but really it's kind of one of the ways that they know we love them, is by wanting to know what's going on in their lives. So keep those conversations going. If you are struggling to think of ways to start the conversation with your teenager about marijuana, here are some little hints and pointers to get you going in the right direction. That first one, ask what they have heard about marijuana. Now, be careful to listen patiently. Don't be distracted when you're having this conversation. This isn't a conversation to have while you're trying to do other things, or you're on your phone, or they should have your full attention for something like this. And when they're speaking, try not to interrupt them. And if they say something that makes you angry, try to keep that anger to yourself, because nothing is going to shut them down quicker than you being angry about what they're saying. The second one, offer your child facts about the risks of using marijuana. Now remember, this presentation is going to be available to you, and you're welcome to go back and reference some of those health risks that I had talked about on the former slides. And you may even want them to just sit with you and watch this presentation. But just keep the dialogue going about how it's going to affect them and their health. And then the third one is offer up your own testimonies and experiences about drug use. Now this one seems to be one of the hardest ones for parents, but I really think it packs a powerful punch. Just being vulnerable about your own story, be honest about temptation and pressure. We all faced temptation and pressures when we were growing up, when we were teenagers. It might not have been marijuana, it might have been other things, but we've all been there. We've all walked through adolescence. And if you're on this call tonight, congratulations, you survived it. So let's use our experiences to share with our kids. And like I said, just keep the conversation going and be honest with them. Don't downplay negative experiences. Be honest with them about how it affected your life or the life of somebody that you knew. Marijuana use in Iowa. Unlike many other states in the United States of America, Iowa is completely illegal to use marijuana recreationally. There are 15 states in the United States of America where marijuana use is fully legal though. And that's going to lead us right into our third pot quiz. Don't worry, you're almost out of the weeds. No, you're all laughing in your hearts. Okay, so our third pot quiz is, the question is, which of the following states is it fully legal to use marijuana both recreationally and medicinally? And the options are A, California, B, Alaska, C, Arizona, or D, all of the above. Go ahead and log in your answer. Let's hear it, Kathy.
D, all of the above.
You guys think I'm predictable?
I think you like D's, but I loved your puns.
Thank you very much. I've got to keep you guys on your toes. Yes, the answer is D. Do any of those three surprise you? I was surprised by Alaska. I did not know Alaska. I knew California and I knew Arizona, but I did not know Alaska. So I was trying to trip you guys up in my defense. Moving on. The recreational use of marijuana is illegal in Iowa. However, the use of CBD oil is legal. And remember, the CBD is the cannabidiol part of the plant that is being used to treat all kinds of ailments. It's used to treat things like anxiety and depression. It relieves pain, and it even helps alleviate some cancer symptoms. There is a great deal of research being conducted as to what benefits this part of the plant could provide. And I'm not going to go too much further into that during this presentation, because I really feel like that could be a presentation on its own. There's so much information about legalizing marijuana for medicinal purposes. If you have any questions about that, I have people that you can speak to about that. But just to highlight one point here, on June 29th, 2020, Governor Kim Reynolds signed House File 2589 into law, and that became effective July 1st of last year. And this legislation included multiple amendments to Iowa's pre-existing medical cannabidiol program. And these amendments included removing the 3% THC limit on products and replacing it with a 4.5 gram THC per 90-day purchase limit. There were exceptions for this rule for folks that were terminally ill or folks that had different recommendations based on their healthcare provider. The Iowa Department of Public Health is now the one that's responsible for issuing registration cards as opposed to the Department of Transportation. Dispensaries will be required to now employ a pharmacist or a pharmacy technician. Felony disqualifiers were removed for patients and primary caregivers that had convictions related to controlled substances. The limit on the number of medical cannabidiol board meetings allowed each year was removed.
This is Jen.
Hey, Jen.
Hi. I do have to jump in just a little bit on that.
Okay, sorry. Jen.
Nope, that's okay. So this is where it does get confusing because you had said CBD is legal in Iowa and it's not.
Okay.
CBD is not legal. The only thing that is allowed is medical CBD, which you can get from currently only 2 dispensaries. So if you go to a spa, let's say, or even Walmart at this time, anything with CBD in it is considered illegal. Okay, so that it's a touchy gray area subject because it's not enforced. But we just have to be careful on saying that CBD is legal when it's not. Okay. Our medical CBD is, if you have a CBD card.
By the Iowa Department of Public Health, correct?
And you can, correct, and you can only get those products from the right now we only have, well, we have 3. Do we have 3 other prevention people? We had 5, but 2 closed. The only products that are legal are from those dispensaries. So any other CBD that people are buying in shops or any place else is still illegal.
Okay, and that's why I invited her on, folks. Thank you, Jen. Appreciate your input.
It's a sticky situation.
Yes, it sounds like it. Okay, right now I've got some statistics from the Heartland. Right here, these statistics are from Delaware County. So the following stats were gathered from polling youth grades 6th, 8th, and 11th in Delaware County during the Core Measures Survey in the fall of 2020. And they read as follows. 1.5% of these kiddos have used marijuana in the past 30 days. 31% believe there is a slight to no risk in smoking marijuana once or twice a week. These statistics are kind of eye-opening to what these kids really think about marijuana. 81% believe that their friends would disapprove of them smoking marijuana, and 93% believe that their parents would disapprove of them smoking marijuana. Now, 93% sounds like a pretty high number, but then you think 7% of parents might think it's okay if their kids were smoking marijuana, or at least that's what the kids think. So this goes back to make your thoughts clear to your kids, make your boundaries clear, and be open and honest about what's okay and what's not okay. Okay, so here is another chart from Delaware County. And these statistics were gathered from polling adults, and this was from 2019. And how much do you think you risk harming yourself, physically or otherwise, if you use marijuana more than once a week? Now, my eyes are immediately drawn to that green chunk there, and those 37.7% of folks thinks that's a great risk. The 26.6% think it's a moderate risk, 16.4% believe it to be a slight risk, and 20.3% believe no risk at all. So there's some pretty interesting thoughts going on out there. How can you help yourself, a friend, or a loved one who is struggling with a marijuana addiction? And the most effective way is to encourage them to speak with a professional, seek help from someone who knows what to do. We've got 3 excellent resources in this area. There's the Substance Abuse Services Center, and otherwise known as SASE. There's the Northeast Iowa Behavioral Health, and there's a website called Your Life Iowa, and that's put forward by the Iowa Department of Public Health. And now, just to talk a little bit about SASE, I've got a colleague of mine in the prevention field online tonight named Mary Boots. Mary is the prevention supervisor at SASE and has been with the agency for 10 years in both the treatment and prevention pillars of programming for substance use disorder and problem gambling. Mary, thanks for being with us tonight. Can you share with us a little bit about SASE?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have offices both in Manchester and Dubuque. Right now we are serving our patients through telehealth options due to COVID, but in a I don't even like to use the word normal anymore. In non-COVID times, we were meeting with patients one-on-one, and we had some really great treatment groups going on. With COVID, those have all kind of been adapted. We're still offering individual, group, and family sessions to all of our patients right now. And I am so appreciative of Meg sharing this information, because I feel like our communities just can't learn enough. We can't absorb enough, and there's never enough education getting out there, because marijuana is, in 2018, was our #1 substance for our patients. We had the most marijuana patients seeking services than we ever had, and they exceeded any other substance in 2018. So that's huge, and just kind of shows the impact that marijuana use is having here in our own backyards as well. Sometimes we think that it's not happening here, it's not happening in our backyards, when it really is, and our community members are really experiencing problems related to that marijuana use. So when somebody encounters that problem related to their marijuana use or substance use, or even their problem gambling, right now the first touch point and way to get in the door and get that support is just to give our number a call. And that number, to get connected, and I can write that in the chat box, it's 563-582-3784. And so with calling that number, a person can get squared away and getting their first appointment scheduled, whether that's they would just want to talk to a counselor and get information, or they're wanting to do their evaluation. And we can get that squared away as well. And so from there, after that evaluation appointment, the patient can meet with a clinician and go through kind of what's going on in their life. And from there, they can determine what is the best course of action here? What is the best course of services? And so that might be meeting individually with a counselor, or it might be attending some groups. Groups is a really effective treatment method and has a lot of great research behind it, of being able to get lots of education and meeting with other people that are struggling as well, and just sharing tips that are working to address recovery. One of the things that we always look at SASE is everybody comes in with a different experience. They're walking a different journey. And so recovery for each person is going to look different. And there's no set standards of what recovery is going to look like. We hope that whatever recovery looks like, it's a healthy lifestyle, and it's a better lifestyle, and helping that person reach the goals that they want for themselves. So ultimately, our group settings are looking at really, we've got a women's group that is really addressing women's specific concerns. And if a person is in need of a higher level of care, we provide outpatient services at SASE. If a person is in need of a residential setting, then we can help get them connected, because in Delaware County and in Dubuque County, unfortunately, we don't have that residential setting. So we would help get them connected and bridge that gap to a residential program in maybe Lynn County, Scott County, not Buchanan, Black Hawk County, to help that process. Does anybody have any questions about accessing care or getting support?
Could you say that number one more time, Mary, just in case folks don't get in the chat box?
Yes, absolutely. It's 563-582-3784. And that is our main office line where people will get connected as well. And Meg, I know you shared a slide that had the Your Life Iowa information on there. That is another great way to get connected to, depending on what area somebody might be coming from. They can get connected to services or get questions answered as well.
Great. And if you guys have questions that you're holding on to, we can field those at the end too with Mary. She'd be happy to answer those for you. Thanks a lot for being on tonight, Mary. I appreciate you sharing about SASE tonight. All right, so another resource is Northeast Iowa Behavioral Health. Now they offer similar services as SASE, but they cover different counties. Branch offices for this are in Decorah and Olwine, and they have satellite offices in Elkader and Waukon, West Union, and Cresco. Okay, and as Mary said, Your Life Iowa through the Iowa Department of Public Health is an excellent resource. There's online chat available, resources for families, there's assessment tools, and not only are they a great resource for this, but they're the reason we're doing these trainings. And it's their funding that helps support youth mentoring so that we're able to serve Northeast Iowa the way that we do. Your Life Iowa has information in the areas of alcohol, drugs, gambling, suicide, mental health, and vaping and e-cigarettes. So if any of those sound like something you'd be interested in learning more about, check out Your Life Iowa. And Kathy and I want to reach at least 100 people, that's our goal, talking about the wonderful resources that Your Life Iowa has on its website. We need groups of people to present to. And so if your employer has staff meetings, or you belong to a civic group that likes to welcome speakers, or you just want to gather some friends together to learn about community resources, let us know and we will work out the details. So Kathy and I play to all kinds of audiences, from board meetings to fondue parties. So nothing is too crazy for a Your Life Iowa presentation. All right, and this is our final pot quiz. And this is going to be another hard one. So everybody put your thinking caps on. This is a true or false question. The question is, the best way to help somebody who has a problem with marijuana addiction is to reference them to a professional. Is that true or is that false?
I see some truths, lots of truths. Some people are abbreviating T. Just want to give a brief reminder, everybody should have their line muted. That will really help. Thank you. True, true, true.
Excellent. I made the questions very hard for you guys tonight. I knew that you'd all been working very hard today and that you would want easy questions. So yeah, so that was our final pot quiz. On this last slide here, that's a really great picture of you, Kathy. I like that.
I like your picture.
Thank you. This is just highlighting some of our upcoming trainings. As I said earlier in the presentation, we will be providing 8 substance abuse prevention trainings throughout this fiscal year. A couple to check out in the future. April of 2021, Kathy will be hosting a presentation on adult binge drinking. And then in May, Kathy and myself will both be doing presentations on how to talk to youth about substance abuse prevention. That'll be a great one for you to turn into if you're a parent, a grandparent, anyone who works with youth, if you're a mentor, that'll be an excellent training for you guys to catch. Okay, so I want to thank you all so much for logging on tonight. I hope that you've learned some new things. And as you can see, I have both mine and Kathy's emails displayed for you all. If you have any questions about any of the information we went over tonight, please feel free to reach out to Kathy or myself, and we'd be happy to help in any way that we can. I'd like to draw your attention to the link at the bottom of this slide. This is the evaluation link for this training. And it'd be wonderful if y'all could complete this survey so we know how to better serve you all through these trainings. Kathy, can you write that evaluation link in the chat box, please?
I did.
Oh, you are just right on top of it. I want to thank my friends on this call tonight. Kathy, I want to thank you for your input, and Mary Boots and Jen Stolka. Thank you guys so much for being on and contributing to this. At this time, I'd like to open the floor to any questions or comments you all might have. And I'll just be quiet for a couple minutes here. And if anyone wants to chime in with any questions or comments, please feel free to do so at this time.
Could you give me the number for the Northeast Iowa Behavioral Health? I started to write it down, but the slide went away before I got it finished.
You bet. I will give that to you right now, Nancy. Okay, it's 800-400-8923.
All right, got it. Thank you very much.
Good, you're welcome, Nancy. And when I get done with this presentation, you guys will receive all this information about this presentation tonight. So if you feel you need to go back and reference anything, that'll be a great time to do it. Okay, well, if you think of something down the road and you didn't get it asked tonight, my email address is on there, as is Kathy's, and we would be happy to answer anything that you ask of us. And again, thank you so much for being on tonight and taking the time to be a part of our call. I hope you've learned some things about the dangers of marijuana.
Meg, there's a really good question. Sorry to interrupt.
No.
Charity asked, where can parents, community members, etc., find information about upcoming legislation?
That is an excellent question. Jen, do you want to field that one?
Well, Jenny Rose just put it in too, and I just put it in. We put a website in the chat box. It's our legislative website. You can look up bills. You can see everything that's going on. If you know a bill number, House File XYZ, you can look at it specifically. Otherwise, you can search. And even if you Google Iowa legislator, it'll come up too. Legislation, it'll come up.
Awesome.
Great question.
That is a great question. Thank you, Charity. Awesome. I'm just going to hang on the call for a couple minutes here in case someone thinks of something. If you don't have questions, you're welcome to log off at this time. And thank you so much for being here.